class. Let's welcome her. Oh, thanks, Miss Edwards. Hi, guys. Hey, Raphael. Marisol, like the hair. So, in continuing the conflict resolution work we've been doing, well, since it seems you can handle it from here, I'll go take this time to catch up on some paperwork. Miss Edwards, I can't be left alone with high school students. I'm not a licensed teacher. Isn't it violence prevention funding that's paying for you to be here? You know what to do. But Miss Edwards, I'm only here once a week, and I'm no expert on special ed. Why would they respect my authority if you're not here to back me up? They like you. Miss Edwards, you'll be fine. I won't be long. Okay. Guess it's just us. I'd like to do an exercise with you guys that's good for high schoolers like yourselves. It's called Two Sides to Every Story. I'm going to make a statement. Those of you who disagree with it, move to this side of the room. Those of you who agree, move to that side. And those who are undecided or have no opinion, stand in the middle. Ms. Linda, can you sit on whatever side of the room you choose, or do you have to stand? Well, sitting or standing doesn't matter, Marisol. That's not the point of the exercise.
I hope there is a valid point to this. There have been times when you've come when I've wondered.
Well, the point, Boubacar, is... Boubacar! Your name is Boubacar!
They call me B, Miss Linda. I prefer it if you'd use that as well.
Why use B when your family has given you such a noble name as Boubacar? That sounds like boo-boo to me.
I wonder what my kicking your behind would sound like.
Manage yourselves, people. Now, did you know that Boubacar means chief or leader? I think B suits him better. It means second letter.
Boop. Boop right back to you.
How did you know the meaning, Miss Linda? Well, I care about these things, and I'm from Africa. For real, Miss Linda? That's crazy. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, you don't have an accent.
Well, I've been here a long time.
How long? I came with my father in 2000. Oh, longer ago than that.
How much longer? From which part of Africa? Tell us about that, Miss Linda.
Oh, no, you don't.
We've got to do this exercise.
Oh, she shut you down.
I didn't shut her down. It's a whole long story, and I only have a few sessions to work with you. Now, where was I? You were giving us instructions. Move to this or that side of the room.
Right.
Oh, glad you could join us, Shanika. Anytime, Miss Sitoli. Okay, quick recap. I'm going to make a statement. Those of you who disagree with it, move to this side of the room. Those who agree, move to that side. And the undecided or no opinion people stand in the middle. Okay, here's the statement. Metal detectors are necessary in our school. Metal detectors are necessary in our school. Okay, we're moving. We're not talking. All right, everybody where they should be? Discuss among you. Of course, there's no cussing in here. All right, choose speakers for your sides. Few more seconds. And time, my lovelies. Who's the speaker on this side? I am. Okay, Marisol. And the other side? I speak for the pro side, because I'm a pro. Okay, Shanika. Even though I'm speaking for the con side, obviously I'm not a con.
Marisol's trying humor again.
Well, why don't we start with your side first, Marisol? In response to the statement, metal detectors are necessary in our school, why does your side disagree? First of all, we disagree because having to go through metal detectors in the morning before class makes you late. Second, I used to go to school in Manhattan before I moved up to the Bronx, for y'all to be quiet. My side agrees with the statement because it's dangerous here in the Bronx, and those metal detectors keep us safe. Also, without metal detectors, 99.9% of the time, blacks and Hispanics would carry guns to school. I'm sorry, wait a minute. I know I don't usually stop you all in the middle of expressing yourselves, but do any of you really believe that? I mean, in that group about the 99%? Yeah, I believe that. I'm the one who said it. Shanika, you honestly think that but for those metal detectors, that the people you go to school with, your neighbors, would carry guns to school? Miss Atoli, I know they would. That is my new reason for being against metal detectors in school. Miss Atoli, you don't know the people around here. They dangerous. Shanika, you're the people around here. Ask yourself this. What if this whole atmosphere of criminality that's being folded into your education is what's most dangerous about those metal detectors? The idea that we're armed and inclined to violence may be more dangerous than anything else. Oh, it's not just an idea. You always seeing somebody on the news who got shot up around here. Well, what if the repetitive nature of those kinds of stories is part of a larger plan to perpetuate that same culture of suspicion promoted and upheld by those metal detectors? I went to an all-black school when I was growing up, and nobody ever brought guns to school. And there were no metal detectors. Things have changed, though. Blacks and Hispanics are dangerous. Everybody knows that, especially us. What's dangerous is that attitude. The best thing you could do for your neighbors is to be a good neighbor yourself and not paint everybody with the same brush. You gotta think the best about your neighbors. You can't be a good neighbor to people you think are out to get you. Neighbors who stick together and care about each other are your best bet for a safe community. That might be true somewhere else, Miss Linda, but things are different here than they are in Africa. Boubacar, I was born in South Africa, but I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Oh, I hear it's rough on the south side of Chicago. Tell us about how you grew up, Miss Linda. Yeah, that's the story I want to hear. I hear they gangbang around there. I very much appreciate it as well. I'm all for that too. Tell your story. I told you guys it's a long one. But you know what? Telling it might present an interesting way for us to discuss some of these social issues like that metal detector thing. I mean, it's 2010 and some of these things just seem to go round and round again. But I must warn you, when I tell this story, it wakes the ancestors. I know about ancestors. Just tell them ancestors not to bother Shanika. Okay. I think I'll do this storyteller style. I'll start out being my mom in the 1960s. And I'm going to jump around in time and space, so you'll have to do your best to try to follow along. I love a good story. Break out the popcorn. Forget about the popcorn, Raphael. Focus on the story. Oh, Sanibona, Sanbona, Sanibona, Sanbona, Sanibona, Sanbona, Ninonke. What shall I call you, little one? Our first one we called Bongiwe because we were so grateful. But now I want to give you a special name. Something that is all your own. Something that will stand you apart from all the other common names. What do you think that name should be? Can you tell me, little one? Well, I shall just have to ask you face to face when you arrive tomorrow. Oh, your father will be so excited when he returns from England to find his new child. His second born. And now we are through, Pamanje. You had better come soon. You were supposed to come 3 weeks ago. I'm tired. I can't keep carrying you up and down, up and down. It has been 9 months. That is long enough. You want me to carry you for 10 months? Is that it? You want to stay longer? Your father is home now and waiting. Hey, I'm not singing to you anymore. It's putting you to sleep. I'm not asleep. I'm thinking. When you're a South African belonging to the Zulu tribe like I am, your parents might give you a name that has something to do with the circumstances of your birth. Or they could give you a name that suggests what they hope for you, like Nonchansha, which means good luck. I was due in July. It just wasn't the right time. Shh. I'm being called Linda. In Zulu, Linda means to wait. I am the one who waits. They were saying I was waiting for my father, who was going to school in London, and I was, but he's been back a week now. See, here's the thing. A lot is happening in South Africa today. I know my time has come to leave the womb, but with all that's going on, I ain't in no hurry. I'm waiting on a change. Do you hear that, God? She's waiting on a change. She hasn't even seen the light of day, and already she's putting in requests. I'm tempted to say, let the stubborn child wait. But this one is the one who must go and tell the story. My great-great-great-granddaughter. Hey, it's times like these that I almost wish that I didn't know the whole story with all the details. I mean, as an ancestor, I know this story like the back of my hand. And because I live beyond space and time, I've seen it many times before. And yet, I await it also. And now, I await her. You look lost. Hey, that's my fault. Let me fix it. First, the child's father, Thamsanqa, Elkin for you, gets fed up with South Africa. Elkin urges his brothers and sisters to leave their homeland and takes up the dream of returning to a free South Africa one day. Propelled by the scripture given them by their father, hey, I must give it to you, God, that was a good one. Philippians 2, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. Each of you should look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. With that in mind, they charted their course for America. Elkin applies for admission and scholarships to as many American universities as he can. When he wins a scholarship through a music competition, he is told by the South African government that unless he can find a white American family to sponsor him, he cannot take advantage of the scholarship. Well, this is when he begins a letter-writing campaign to some churches in the United States. Hey, God, do you remember the time I had protecting those letters? Oh, I had to be here, I had to be there. The government was always doing something to try to keep mail from reaching overseas. Oh, but this time they were not successful. It is a family from Connecticut that agrees to sponsor him. And because they were from old money and very generous, they had Elkin's wife and children join him at their expense. Hey, like I say, I could tell this story in my sleep. And yet, each time, it makes my heart feel warm. Well, my child, come now. If it's change you want, you shall have it. Nearly 1 week later, in a township called Umlazi, I finally arrived. When I was 14 months old, my parents moved us to the United States. Our first few years were spent in Hartford, Connecticut, but I grew up on the south side of Chicago, where my father moved us when he got a job there as a professor of ethnomusicology at Northeastern Illinois. And that class is what the musical masters do. Are there any questions? Dr. Brother Satoli, is there any correlation between traditional African rhythms and American pop music? Oh, yes, yes, yes. I'm glad you asked. I'm so glad you asked. If I say I'm going to speak about music, most people will think that I'm going to speak about Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms, because that is what music is to most people. A book that says History of Music always speaks about Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms, as if there are no Japanese musicians, no Chinese musicians, no African musicians. Now I am going to speak about the characteristics of African music. African music is first and foremost characterized by rhythm. In African music, rhythm is first. Everything else is secondary. So anything that produces rhythm is an instrument. Hands, fingers, shoes, and then harmony follows, and then melody. You can see already that this is different than Western music, where melody is primary, and then harmony, and in last place rhythm. When I test my students at Northeastern, I ask them to write this song for me. Da 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 da. They write it quickly and bring it to me without difficulty. But when I ask them to write the second song, hey, they sit and they look at me until I'm finished. And when I say, why didn't you write? They say, we thought the song was still coming. What did you think I was doing? We thought that was the introduction to the real song. But no, because it is a rhythmic experience, they think that that's not the song, but that is the song. African music is a rhythmic experience. It is a rhythmic culture. Now I want to test you. Clap this rhythm after me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Very good. But it can also be, oh, they can you see by the dawn's early light. Happy birthday to you. Oh, they can you see. Now to the African, listening to that song, it is the same song. For him, nothing has changed there, because he is listening for the rhythms. Now, the reason that I say in Western music rhythm is not as important is in an orchestra. The conductor gets up there and he sets one rhythm for everybody. He can set either 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, stop, or a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, stop, or a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. No, not in bebop. Or a lot of other dance musics. There are many, many rhythms, and no one person sets it. It is a group effort. You must only give the musicians a 1 and a 2, and you let them go. Leave them. If you are there trying to conduct this one, you're disturbing that one. That one is on 4/4, that one is on 6/8, and it's all going on at the same time. How? Did I answer your question? Comparing rhythm, melody, and all things music enthralled him as much as comparing people, their ways, and all things culture. He was born Tamsangma Sitola, but had to take the English name, Elkin, to go to school because the white people wouldn't say our names. The missionaries called these our Christian names, but I think Christ would have had us keep our names. Lena, Mpolisi, and Sipiwe are easy for him. Jesus is fluent in Zulu, you know. Baba felt it important that his children keep their Zulu names, as it would help us stay connected with who we are. When my sister and I started school, we spoke half Zulu, half English. Zoolish. So my parents had us speak only English until we mastered it. But after about a year, I could hardly speak Zulu at all. I'm still pretty good at Zoolish, though. I use it on an as-need basis. Hello? This is who? The Educational Loan Servicing Center. Oh, no, you don't have to call me. I know what you want. When I get the money, young jail, I will let you know. Zulu is one of 11 official languages in South Africa today. Some people call it the heavenly language because its literal translation is heaven. Vumela bantu out kukala, kapela nyano uyavala. Let the people out first and stand clear of the closing door. We lived among bourgeois black people in a middle-class area of Chicago known as Pill Hill. And because we had all moved in around the same time with kids around the same age, it was the American dream come to life. Pill Hill got its name because of its numerous two-doctor households. I don't know what committee comes up with the neighborhood name, but you know, rumor has it that Pill Hill won by a landslide over Quack Shack Gardens. When I got to the age where I started to notice the difference between a doctor's house and a teacher's house, I started to feel a little less than. You see, our house didn't sit in the middle of the hill where the big houses were, but rather we lived on the edge of Pill Hill. See, my father, while raising 4 kids on this side, was sending money home to South Africa to build and maintain a house for my grandmother, which made for lesser comfort and lesser cash. So instead of that just back from the boat look, we had that just got off the boat. My parents were proud people, and they didn't give a rat's attitude what people thought about us. Sort of. Mom would say, Linda, when you eat at other people's homes, you must always wash the dishes. And Baba would say, Linda, you must not eat at other people's homes. They cared some, but they didn't live for their approval like I did. Baba considered education an honor and a privilege. So when he learned of all the universities in this country that gave scholarships and grants, he made it his mission to connect his brothers and sisters and any South African scholar willing to come to the United States to go to school. Over the years, we hosted countless numbers of students from South Africa. Baba was an invaluable resource. And yet, I saw him as the bane of my existence. I felt that his refusal to assimilate kept me from getting into the in crowd. In my own mind, we looked like polyester leisure suits in a world of tuxedos. And because of Baba's distinguished work, we were often invited to formal dinners where the guests paid $100 or even $500 a plate. We went for free. There were often local celebrities there, like sports figures, anchor people, even the mayor. I tell you, I felt as out of place at these dinners as the mafia at H&R Block. And just as we would sit down to dine with the dignitaries, Baba would order a nice tall glass of milk. Oh, please, Baba, not milk. I want wine, like the others. And Baba had this thing where he would watch his plate so closely, you'd think he was afraid someone was going to steal his food. As if the guy sitting next to him who just dropped $500 for dinner even cared about seconds. And he ate so fast, you got the impression he hadn't eaten in days. And he'd only lift his head to say, want to be the one to teach them. Oh, and those images from Hollywood didn't help either. There was no way I could relate to the African images I saw in movies like Tarzan. Fortunately, I discovered Miriam Makeba. Oh, Miriam was beautiful, sang like an angel, and was from my home country. She recorded a song called Pata Pata, which Baba loved to have my sister and I sing and dance to. Oh, our house was like showtime at the Apollo. Fortunately, there was no Sandman. Sakukuga something bega Nancy Pata Pata Sakukuga something bega Nancy Pata Pata Yamama Yama Nancy Pata Pata Yamama Yama Nancy Pata 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 is the name of a dance we do down Johannesburg with. Everybody starts to move when they hear Pata Pata play. Sakukuga something bega Nancy Pata Pata Sakukuga something bega Nancy Pata Pata. Oh yes, Miriam was special. Baba filled the house with everything from classical to gospel to country western to jazz. He'd call us kids in as quickly to listen to Jesse Norman on a special as Mick Earl on Hee Haw. Our favorite fellow was hands down Buggy Linda Soul Train. That's when I caught my first glimpse of the man I just knew I would marry. He was introduced with his 4 brothers, and they called themselves the Jackson 5. I had it all figured out. I would charm Michael by being aloof at his superstar status. I would act like I hadn't heard of the Jackson 5, and he would look into my eyes and know that I loved him for him and not his fame and fortune. And then Baba would turn the whole experience into a lecture. Michael Jackson understands rhythm. Baba, you're in the way of the TV. His body is submissive to the beat. Please, Baba, get out of the way. Unlike those who understand rhythm, but are not able to submit to the beat. At least not the beat that is playing at the time that they are dancing. He wears an afro to accentuate his moves. The black American calls it the natural. So whether you like Michael Jackson or you don't like Michael Jackson, his body is submissive to the beat. And now the dancers will form a line where the individuals can showcase themselves doing the latest dances. Ah, funky chicken, Linda! Funky chicken! Walk the dog, bongi! Hey, walk the dog! Do the push and pull. Do the push and pull. And now the master of ceremonies closes the program by leading the crowd in a chant of unity, love, peace, and soul. And that is what is called getting down. While we were digging Motown, my parents had their own favorites. Both my parents loved country music, because it was like music they listened to when they were growing up. You see, the government controlled the influx of music that might incite riots, as if oppression, repression, and suppression would inspire goodwill. So, country western got a lot of airplay, especially on road trips. Ha! Elkin! Tanita! Tanita! You kids need to hear this. Listen to what Dolly says. Come on, Mom. Don't nobody want to hear all that country stuff. What's on the other station? Listen to the words. Dolly is talking about a coat that her mother made for her from scratch. She didn't let the other kids make her feel bad about it being made of rags because she knew it was made with love. You see, they were very poor, but everybody has it as good as you kids. There are children in Africa who would love to have even your old clothes. Ah, Mom, don't me.
You kids need to be more grateful.
Thank you, Mama, for getting me that coat that you got from Kmart. I know that every stitch was manufactured with love.
Nice.
Oh, well, Keaton, I'd like to get there in one piece. Mom's lesson fell on deaf ears. As a middle schooler, I hadn't learned to care about the rest of the world. I was in America now, the land of plenty. I only cared about my slice of the pie. Now, my hunger for that pie led me to some pretty risky situations, especially as a teenager. Linda, why would a strange man that you met in a parking lot invite a teenaged girl all the way to Niles, Illinois to take pictures in his home without checking with her parents unless he was going to kill her or send the pictures to a pornographic magazine? For some unknown reason, my mom seemed preoccupied with the prospect of my accidental involvement in pornography. Mom, the guy's a professional photographer. He takes pictures for JCPenney, Sears, and a lot of other respectable magazines. He caught a glimpse of me in the parking lot with the sunlight hitting me just right and immediately recognized my natural talent. Linda, this is America. People are free to be as crazy as they want to be. How do you know that he won't take your face and put it on the body of a naked woman and sell it? Mom, he's not going to do that. He doesn't even think about stuff like that. He's an old man, for crying out loud. He's got to be almost 40. You act like I'm not a good judge of character. That's why I didn't tell you when I had my first session. You have been there before. Well, you can forget about there being any second session. Oh no, I'm not forgetting about it. This could be my big break. You're not going to keep me from my public. Oh, I'm trying to keep you from being killed. Now you call him and you tell him that you're canceling. I was livid. But looking back, I'm glad she took that stand. I mean, the more I think about it now, the more I realize I was likely in the home of a dangerous individual. But Mom being right was just something I couldn't fathom at the time. She could be so protective, especially when I thought I knew what I was doing. But you know, so often, I really didn't. Like the time I went to visit one of the few white friends I had in high school. Now, understand, my school was mixed, but you know how it is. It was just easier to stick with your own. You understood all the jokes. Now, her name was Donna, and Donna lived on the opposite side of town. She had been the only white student to come with us on the school choir's trip to the Bahamas, which made me think, well now, if she can take a risk like that, so can I. And I accepted an invitation to her house. But I must admit, when I approached her house, I did approach it with some apprehension. I mean, I had heard all kinds of stories about black kids being jumped in white neighborhoods and vice versa. I didn't know what to expect. And I figured, well, if anything went down, I could always go into my street persona. You know, you might just want to back up off it. I'm from the south side of Chicago, and I hate to have to show you how we treat people like you where I'm from. My best friend Lonnie, who was with me, said, Linda, please, you're from the hill. Oh, it's like that. Look, Lonnie, let me set you straight right now. I'm from the edge of the hill, okay? I don't have no problems going upside the heads of some crazy crackers if I have to. Now, if they don't start nothing, so onward we went. The eyes that were curiously peeking through the blinds to make sure it was safe to open the door made for a clumsy reception. But my fears were put at rest when Donna's father assured us we were dealing with humanitarians. Let me tell you, Skit, something. It makes me so proud that you Skits could come visit my house. rights. I have a dream, Martin Luther King, I'm all for all that stuff. I raise my kids right. I teach my kids to love everybody. I don't care what anybody says. In this house, a black is a black until proven guilty. A black is a black until proven guilty? No disrespect, Mr. Tolley, but y'all should have known better than to go into white folks' neighborhoods. Well, Shanika, we were trying something different. I mean, at that time, in general, I was quick to judge people, too. For real, Miss Linda? But you're so open-minded. Now I am. Took a lot of work to get here. I mean, when I was in high school, I was all set to go to the University of Wisconsin until my future roommate called to introduce herself. When I got off the phone and thought, that didn't sound like no sister, I applied to Howard University instead.
Oh, Miss Linda, you know that's narrow-minded.
What can I say? I had growing to do. See now, that trip to Donna's house was awkward, but at least we all tried. I mean, getting acquainted with what's unfamiliar is bound to be uncomfortable, but it's worth it if we gain some understanding. One of my teachers told me that most of the time, suburbs are only about 1% African American. You could have been hurt, Miss Linda.
Yeah. What that man said is the kind of thing people say when they're not used to talking to black people.
You're so right, Boubacar. See, in my neighborhood, and likely in Donna's, we gave each other permission to use nicknames for people who weren't like us. Well, as long as they ain't around, what's wrong with that? I mean, it's not like you call them names to their face. Well, the problem with it is how it diminishes people's humanity in your eyes. So when you come into contact with one another and want to appear civilized, the best you can come up with is invariably uninformed, stupid, silly. Fish don't fry in the kitchen, or beans don't burn on the grill. Took a whole lot of trying just to get up that hill. Now we up in the big leagues, did not turn that back. Long as we live, it's you and me, baby. There ain't nothing wrong with that. We're moving on up to the east side. We finally got a piece of the pie. Yeah. TV families like the Jeffersons and the Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family were my models for what families should be like. Now, I thought that we should use the Bradys as our standards. My parents became concerned about who and what we were becoming and could see that neither the media nor our Southside community could reinforce our cultural customs. So, Baba decided that we should start practicing one of our Zulu traditions. Now, the one that he thought that we should implement first was one where, on special occasions, when seeking guidance or giving thanks to the ancestors, we, slaughter a goat. On my grandmother's farm in South Africa, it's a cow. On the edge of Hill Hill, it's a goat. Space considerations, you understand. Now, when a relative or family friend would arrive safely from overseas, Baba would drive to the farms of Illinois in search of a goat to slaughter. The goat would ride in the back of our big blue station wagon through the city streets of Chicago, and fortunately, in the dark of night, passed for a dog. Now, as the doomed goat entered the house, he probably wondered why he was being hurried into the basement with these people he didn't know. Well, for family photos, of course! The family would gather to pray, talk about our eventual return to South Africa, and my father would tell my brother about the opportunity he now had to learn to feed his family. The women would be sent upstairs, and the next time I saw the goat, it would be swinging without its skin in the laundry room. Eventually, every part of him ended up in the freezer. Somehow I just couldn't see Mike Brady encouraging Greg, Peter, and Bobby to engage in such activities. But the toughest part about the whole thing for me was having to explain to my neighbors why there was an animal skin drying on our lawn in the backyard. No, that does look like animal skin. But what would animal skin be doing on our lawn? I bet you that's horse. You know, I hear that there is a cult in the area that's starting a do-it-yourself hair weave line. Oh, I was terrified that my friends would find out. I didn't think they'd understand anything like this. Never heard them mention the ancestors or having to run home to kill a goat for graduation. And if one of them asked if they could stay over for dinner during this time, I discouraged them by saying we were having takeout. Oh, now we were having takeout all night. And when dinner time came, there was no way that my sister and I could eat the goat with the rest of the family. I mean, we had taken pictures with it, for heaven's sakes. You can't share those kind of Kodak moments without developing some kind of bond. One of my uncles was not at all sentimental. He would smile big, reach for the goat's eyes, and say, "Here is the best pie." We would squeal in disbelief. "Oh, no, not the eyes!" But he enjoyed it anyway. I'm keeping an eye on my diet. My family kept up this tradition and a number of others at a time before African Americans embraced their African heritage. They hadn't arrived at that term, African American, yet. They were just black in those days. Every other black person had some Indian in them. I tell you, them Indians sure got around. But then I wasn't much for embracing my culture either. I wanted to be like the Brady Bunch, remember? I wanted to be just like them. But I was afraid at the rate we were going, our theme song would go more like this. Here's a story of an African family that was bringing up 3 very lovely girls. There was one boy that lived all together. They each had Jerry curls. Until one day when the father said tradition, and they knew that it was much more than a hunch, that the poor goat had not much longer, for he would soon be lunch. That crazy bunch had to go for lunch. That's the way they became that crazy bunch. Dun, 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 dun. That's how I saw us, like some poor imitation of a great American family. But then I met Mr. Brisby. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let us march on till victory is won. Mr. Brisby was my 7th grade history teacher who wore dashikis and spoke about liberation and education. Mr. Brisby taught his students in our all-black middle school to empower themselves. Mr. Brisby had us read such books as The Miseducation of the Negro, Blues for Mr. Charlie, and the autobiography of Malcolm X. We got to study our own history. That's our responsibility. You can't wait on the white man to tell you who you are, because that would shed light on what his part was in our history. And he don't want your focus on that. Let him tell it, you gonna always be wrong. Let him tell it, he gonna always be the hero. Race was a hot topic in my school. There was a lot of talk about the white man being the devil when I was growing up. And since these conversations happened in closed circles, we always ended up agreeing it was true. Brisby constantly challenged our thinking and brought me up a time or two along the way. Everybody in here got a slave name, except Linda Satoli, and you don't even know it. It was the slave master who gave you your name when he bought your ancestors. This was radical. Folks weren't trying to be woke. One of the boys in my class whose last name was Taylor objected, saying, Mr. Brisby, my family were tailors by profession. That's why our name is Taylor. Even so is not the name that your ancestors had when they came over from Africa. Now, I did not say you should be ashamed of your name, but I am saying you should know. Now, I want to ask y'all something. Who in here lives in the ghetto? The class burst out laughing. Our parents were professionals. We didn't want for anything. And even though some of us lived on the edge of Pill Hill, well, shoot, it was still Pill Hill. And we took pride in being bougie. So Brisby gave us perspective when we needed it. Everybody in here lives in the ghetto. A ghetto is any area where the underclass is forced to live by the ruling class. Now, in a sense, the well-to-do Afro-American has got to live in Pill Hill. But let him try to get a real estate broker to show him a house in an area that's non-black and see what happens. Mr. Brisby, I said, I figured as the only student in the class without a slave name, maybe I could clear this whole thing up. How can this be a ghetto? Nobody wants to live in the ghetto. Everybody wants to live here. White people don't. They moved to the suburbs. Who do you think lived in these houses before we got here? Now, I did not say this was a slum, but it is the ghetto. Oh, it's a nice ghetto, but a ghetto nonetheless. I was stunned. Brisby went on to expound on xenophobic patterns creating chocolate cities and vanilla suburbs, and challenged us to come back after college and contribute to the betterment of our inner city neighborhoods in the decades to come. Y'all better pay attention to your education and gain economic and thereby political strength, and a state being statistically grouped together with the poor and the disenfranchised. Consider that your responsibility. Brisby didn't play. In that instance, the similarities between Chicago and South Africa became clear. Chicago had its own apartheid. That sounds like the Bronx. Well, in some ways. I mean, parts of the Bronx are still segregated, with some areas being all Jewish, all Italian, all Hispanic, or all black. Ms. Linda, do you think Mr. Brisby would have called them ghettos? Well, who can say? I think his point was about affluent black people not being able to purchase homes wherever they wanted because of what's called racial redlining. My grandmother told me about a lynching that happened up here in the Bronx in the 1960s. People always acting like something like that could never happen in New York. That just goes to show how dangerous fear of each other can be. It creates this us versus them mentality. Now those metal detectors seemingly sort us good students from them gangbangers. From there, we more readily accept such everyday inconveniences as the NYPD stop and frisk, assuming, oh, they're just protecting us good citizens from them criminals. I hate stop and frisk. Wherever I go, I got to give myself extra time to get there in case the police want to stop me for a pat down. You been stopped before, Raphael? A couple of times a month. See, that makes me run late, which makes me lose my job, which makes it hard to pay their fines for not showing up at court, to answer the loitering charge for waiting outside my baby mama house. I'm sorry that happened to you, Raphael. Have you tried dressing differently? I know it's a poor excuse, but sometimes image plays a part in the police singling you out. Well, if I wear like what you call nice, then I get picked on in school. But when I'm in my normal clothes, I get hassled by the cops. Plus, I can't afford a whole closet full of nice stuff like the drug dealers can. This profiling has got to stop. But it's going to take everybody caring about each other. People around here don't care. They care. They just need organizing. Who's going to do that? Maybe you. One thing's for sure, there is power in unity. Where neighbors stand united, children do better in school, everybody's healthier, and neighborhood issues get resolved. And anybody who cares about you is your neighbor, by the way, whether they live in the Bronx or not. When neighbors unite and put pressure on government representatives, they can get anything fixed. What they got to do with it? My beef's with the police. Well, if we get more political, we'd know how to vote the right way for the neighborhood. There are people in government who have power over the police, right? Exactly. Y'all are catching on. Staying politically informed is a great way to contribute to your neighborhood.
That is, if what you're staying informed about is for your neighbor's benefit.
Exactly. That can be the part you play in your neighborhood's culture. Ms. Linda, do you really think we could make a difference in our neighborhood's culture?
Make a difference? I know you could.
Speaking of culture, check this out. Sizo hambanaye, Sizo hambanaye, whoa, 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 Sizo hambanaye, Mongyawe jabulo, Sizo hambanaye, Mongyawe jabulo, Sizo hambanaye. Singing was a big culture thing in my family. As a practice, my family would sing and dance around the coffee table whenever we had guests. Sometimes our neighbors would come over to see what was up, but when they got pulled in to sing, they would just join in. Long as you held on to your part, you were fine. My family didn't appreciate your switching back and forth between parts. We sang wedding songs, birthday songs, hymns, and popular songs from my parents' day. Never mind your face, baby, I won't see your figure. Never mind your face, baby, I won't see your figure. 10 around, 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 10 around. The Citolens unite their voices and it is war. When my father and his brothers and sisters were young, they would compete with other families and were unbeaten by anyone. In this song, we sing the names of our grandfathers. It's kind of a way of keeping track of history. Away, 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 away. Asikitali, no malati, sing amadobe, amakulu, away, 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 away. The years went by with all their growing pains, and I managed to blend, 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 until my day of reckoning finally arrived. Now, this was the doom I had dreamt of many times. My best friends had gathered on our front porch to save our last few days together before I was to leave for college. There I was, having completed high school and on the brink of flying the coop, leaving the nest, blazing a trail for others to follow. I was headed for Howard University, the Mecca as it was called. Now, we had all been in the same theater company together where we had done more than 30 plays, in which I was the lead in most. So we had a million stories involving my favorite subject at the time, me! Oh, yeah. I was in my glory. This was my day, and nothing was gonna spoil it. Is that the bleating of a goat I hear? Girl, do you know how often people have told me that my laugh reminds them of a farm animal?
Linda, come for the pictures. The goat is ready.
Thanks for getting that coat for me, Baba. I'll be in for the pictures in a minute. What? A coat? In this heat? I said the goat! The jig was up. I stood there paralyzed. Oh, God, open up the earth and swallow me whole. But all they did was laugh. In fact, they roared and said, ah! We always knew you Africans had your own ways. And that was it. All those years, I tortured myself, keeping secrets when what I now felt was more relief than pain. A strong sense of freedom came over me. I had discovered the freedom of being known. Reared against the eastern sky, proudly there on hilltop high, far above the lake so blue, stands old Howard firm and true. When from thee we've gone away, may we strive for thee each day. As we sail life's rugged sea, oh Howard, we'll sing of thee. My years at Howard were all about discovery. Discovering men and politics were among the highlights. Now, I had arrived at college knowing little about male-female relationships except for what my mom had equipped me with. Linda, your body is a temple. That was Mom's entire lesson. Mom was, I didn't know what that meant. Was I to be open on Sundays for worship? Did I take up a collection? Mom tended to be vague on such subjects. So, as you can imagine, the South African version of the birds and the bees was sketchy. I also neglected to form any politics of my own. But once I understood the fact that as a college student, I was responsible for making educated decisions, I quickly formed some opinions and took some positions. I decided that urging American businesses to divest from South Africa would be my way of taking part in the struggle against apartheid. I scratched certain products off my shopping list and urged everyone else to do the same. Renewed and excited to have found a purpose, I called my mom to tell her about my upcoming march on the South African Embassy. Mom, I'm calling to tell you about my upcoming march on the South African Embassy. Linda, do not allow the news people to put you on camera. You've been here a long time, but you're not a citizen. Remember that. They may send you back if you cause too much of a disruption. Come on, Mom, I'm not scared. Our generation is so comfort-seeking and apathetic. We don't care about anybody but ourselves. We don't give a rat's arsenal about the kind of world we live for the generation behind us. Oh, we're quick to give to the Gucci Fund and the Ralph Lauren Fund, but what are we giving to each other? How are we benefiting our fellow man? I would think that you'd be ecstatic that I want to do something for other people. Who will you benefit sitting in jail? Maybe sitting in jail is what will get the message across. Mom, if we don't stand for something, we'll fall for anything. Oh, I was big and bad. I stood outside the South African Embassy with the rest of the Howard students shouting, "Divest now! Divest now! What do we want? Out! When do we want it? Now!" I felt more powerful than ever before. There I was. that affect the whole world. I was out there shouting for my life. But all of a sudden, I heard the wail of a paddy wagon. What if Mom's right? I just started school. What if I get expelled? What if I get thrown into jail? What if my cellmate wants me to spank her and call her Aunt Bee? The government could send me back. I don't know enough Zulu to buy a banana. So I made like a banana and split. Mom being right was finally something I could imagine. It was the dead of night. And because of my excitement over my sister coming to visit D.C., I had had a hard time sleeping. I finally drifted off, only to be rudely awakened. I was handed the phone in the middle of the night to hear Baba utter the words, "Linda, Mommy fell." My father was a man of few words when he was emotional. I imagined he had rehearsed a different kind of speech, explaining exactly what had happened, but hearing my voice, he could only muster the words, "Linda, Mommy fell." What? Mommy fell at work. She had some pain in her chest and fell. The doctors say that she had a stroke. When Bongi gets there, come home. I couldn't believe it. My mom had a stroke? I couldn't help but think, was it me, or wasn't a long-time registered nurse supposed to know better? Mom constantly spoke of a diet and exercise program that she would be starting on Monday. Thankfully, Mom lived 5 years beyond the doctor's expectations. The next time it was my uncle who called with the news. "Linda, Mommy's gone." Mommy fell, Mommy's gone. Though she was called Regina all my life, my mom's given name was Tembisile Buthelezi. Tembi means hope. I sure hope I'll see her again. Tula, mama, tula, tula, mama, tula, tula, mama, tula, som tata, sombega e shombe, wasuga wakala, wanti waiba. After graduating from Howard and working a while, it was 1988. Jesse was running for president, and I needed a student loan in order to accept my place at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. Now, being only a permanent resident, I couldn't vote or borrow money to go to school overseas. The time had come. Time to become officially American. Linda, Bundy tells me that you want to be a citizen of the United States. Well, I want to vote. I want to go to London for school. I can't do that as a South African. I'm a fourth-class citizen in my home country. Your fourth-class ranking is a figment of somebody else's wickedness, which has nothing to do with who you are. But your African roots have been planted by God. Baba, there's no benefit to being South African, so it's not like I give up anything by giving up my citizenship. We have land in South Africa, which the government can take anytime they want. They won't. How do you know? Baba, we've been lucky. They haven't found a reason to want it yet, but if they do, they'll take it. And being a South African citizen won't stop them. Things will change, Linda. That's what people are fighting for. Who knows how long that will take? Baba, I need money for graduate school now. I've got to live my life now. Besides, I grew up here. I might as well be a citizen. I mean, this is home for me. Linda, this is where we are living. This is not home. We came to this country to better position ourselves to help people. We're not here to become American. Well, Baba, I had no say in why we came, but now I've got to pursue what I'm here for. Life, liberty, happiness.
Linda, we don't pursue those things as individuals. We are Setoles.
We are not American.
Prospective citizens, please step forward to be sworn in. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America
I pledge allegiance to the United States of America
and disavow any prior allegiance to any country, state, province, or potentate that I heretofore belong to.
and disavow any prior allegiance to any country, state, province, or potentate that I heretofore belong
I
to.
will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by the law.
I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by the law.
I take this obligation freely and without any mental reservation.
I take this obligation freely and without any mental reservation. Well, after becoming a citizen, I changed my mind about going to school in London and went to the Yale School of Drama instead. And Jesse didn't even win, even though I, an American citizen, voted for him. One of my favorite Setola traditions involves graduation ceremonies. You see, it was my grandparents' wish that all their children be educated in the United States. So whenever someone in my family graduates, we all put on our robes for the pictures, in tribute to my grandmother's sister, who saw to it that all 6 of her nieces and nephews graduated from Harvard, Wesleyan, and the University of Chicago, to name a few. Half of them are PhDs. See, now that goat thing, I'm not going to practice that. But the graduation thing, I can do. When I graduated from Yale University, my family came in full regalia. My uncle flew all the way from South Africa to be there. I worried that the event wouldn't meet their expectations because while President George Bush Sr. spoke about our delicate relationship with China, protesters picketed throughout the ceremony. But I guess I knew the graduation couldn't be taken from us. I say us because it was for my grandfather, who died in the mines. It was for my grandmother, who never got the opportunity to read but vowed her children would. It was for the Connecticut family, who took a chance on our family by helping us to the States in the first place. It was for each person who sacrificed so that I could live my life without boundaries. At the close of the ceremony, my family gathered as we sang our national anthem. Ukasisigeli Afrika, malupaganisu pandolwayo, yizwa imitandazo yetu, nkosi sigelela, tina lusapulwayo. On October 31st, 1994, I was walking through the village on what I thought was an absolutely perfect day. The weather was just right, not too hot, not too cold, and I remember thinking, what a great day this is. I made it home in time to hear my ringing phone in the living room. It was my brother Josana and my sister Bungie calling from Chicago. Now my brother kept saying, Linda, are you watching CNN? Linda, are you watching CNN? Then my sister started to explain on the extension that they were on hold with the airport and that Baba was due back on a 4 o'clock flight. Here it was, 7:30. They hadn't heard from him. Immediately, my mind went to all the reasons why he might not have called. Well, maybe he mistook the departure date and doesn't realize anyone's waiting for him. Maybe he got on the wrong flight and doesn't want to call from the plane. Maybe he decided to drive back. In any case, I told my brother and sister to get on their knees so we could pray. Oh God, protect Baba wherever he is. I know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance, but I won't make it without him. I hung up the phone, turned on CNN to learn that a commuter flight had plunged nose first into a soybean field. And there were no survivors. I discovered a song that night that my family and I hadn't sung before. Immediately, my family gathered in Chicago. But before we could collect ourselves, every news station in the city had sent cameras to get our reactions. Some of the reporters had been to our house only months before to get Baba's reaction to having voted. It was the first time my father had ever voted for Nelson Mandela in our country's first open election. We could offer the media nothing but tears. We licked our wounds and sent his sparse remains back to South Africa, where he wanted to be buried alongside my mom. Oh, Sindisi, oh, Sindisi, Very nice to meet you, Miss Sithole, though it's a bitter circumstance. We're the legal representation for the airline, and we've called this deposition to assess the value of your father to the family so that we can make amends, as it were. I'm sorry, what? Make a settlement is the phrase. Let me be sure I understand you. You want to pay me for my father's death? You make a mistake, you must pay for it. That's how we apologize in America. My father hated the idea of reducing human life to economics. You don't measure people in dollars and cents. That's a mistake on your part. You can be compensated for loss of income, loss of guidance, loss of consortium, mental distress, pain and suffering. You can even be compensated for your dad's pre-impact terror. I see. What if I told you that there isn't enough money in the world to pay me for my father? My father was priceless. And he taught me that our greatest natural resource is humanity. What we give one another in the time that we have should be our lifetime privilege. Just think how sad it would be to live your whole life and never take the opportunity to give yourself away when I'm sorry. That's why we're here. Nobody could take my father's life because he gave it away while he was alive. And he left no invoice. You taught me something today, Miss Sithole. Maybe that's why I'm here. After all, I'm a teacher's daughter. That's it. Miss Linda, that is the saddest thing I ever hear. Your parents didn't live to see you go back to South Africa. Man, Miss Sithole, I'm sorry. You always so happy-go-lucky. I didn't know you had been through anything hard. How could you know? You don't know what somebody's been through until you get to know them. Storms hit the good and the bad. I guess that's the moral of the story. It's certainly one of them. What happened afterwards? Well, we had to learn to live without Baba. But on his birthday, we would do a conference call to check on each other. That sounds sad. Well, it used to be, till it wasn't. Later on, it became more of a celebration of ever having known him in the first place. And having the younger generation around reminds us that there's always another part to say. Well, my child, you've had many, many changes now. You waited to be born, but I hope you will not wait to tell the story, especially what you have learned. It's true. We give you a name that has a meaning so that you can have some starting point, some place to begin. That is why we call your father Tamsanga, which means blessing. But in truth, it is you who must decide who you will be. And then you must live your life being that person. Tell his story. Live your story. And if you are smart, you will make it good. Because there will always be another storyteller who will tell on you. Miss Linda, I ain't trying to be nosy, but what happened with the settlement? Well, in the end, we took it. But guess who spoke up for Baba at the deposition? Oh, I know the answer to that one. The students he helped. They sure did. And so did neighbors, family, and friends. Man, where can I get neighbors like that? Oh, they were everyday people like the folks you have right here in the Bronx. I doubt that. Don't doubt it. You know, you guys, I owe you an apology. I was actually afraid of you guys. I didn't want to be left here with you. Those metal detectors didn't get me, but labels like special ed, mental health, disability made me think you were dangerous. And it's ironic because that's what I don't like about those metal detectors. They make you see each other that way. So whether you're going through your metal detectors or being profiled on the street or having to go through some airport's body scanners, remember, the guy standing next to you is your neighbor, whatever the color, going through the same experience. So next time, instead of looking at your neighbors like crooks, carrying guns 99.9% of the time, grab one of them. And in your best Mr. Rogers voice say, I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. Oh no, she didn't just start singing some Mr. Rogers. I always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. My grandmoms used to rock that song. Let's make the most of this beautiful day. Public broadcasting at its finest. Since we're together, we might as well say, is that what they taught you in jail, Miss Linda? That's Yale, Marisol. That's what I said. Please won't you be my neighbor? Oh, Miss Sita!